being true, authentic, who you are as a personal brand, it's going to be polarizing. It's going to be repelling to some people, but the people that it attracts, it's going to be strong.
Hi, I'm Wyatt. And I'm Grace. And you're listening to Our Dad and your host of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Moore, and we're back with our Experts Corner episodes where we bring in experts from different walks of life, different areas of business, so that we can all learn how to succeed at a top level and apply it to our vacation rental portfolio, our marketing. And my guest today is I'm very, very excited for. I don't think you guys are going to be disappointed in this one. I've got Mr. Paul Getter, the internet marketing nerd. And Paul is a marketing consultant, social media expert, author, and entrepreneur. After teaching himself about the power of internet marketing, he created the Internet Marketing Nerds and quickly became one of the most sought after marketing experts in the world. Guys, Paul is the real deal. He's spent over $1 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars running ads and campaigns for his clients. He's personally has almost 2.5 million followers on Instagram alone. He's written 3 books. And most importantly, he's a husband, father, trying to make the world a better place. Paul, I'm super excited about this conversation. Welcome to the podcast.
Shawn, thank you very much for that introduction. You're reading all this. I'm like, that's me? Wow. That's
you. Yeah. Wow. I could have kept going. I had to trim it down. You got quite the resume.
Tone it down. You want to make it sound believable,
No, it's I'm excited about this conversation. Now, you work with a lot of A-listers. You work with a lot of different brands and really understand this game of, being able to, help people get their word out there. And for our listeners, or a lot of, sometimes they don't think about it. And we, as vacation rental investors, we build these portfolios, and part of us buying these really expensive properties, building these nice portfolios, is we have to attract, convert, and retain customers.
Yeah.
And you are very, very good at that. And the principles of marketing, internet marketing, all of those things absolutely apply. And so it's, a lot of times people don't talk about this in our world, but that is the world we live in as vacation rental investors, because we've got to attract and convert customers on a regular basis. So I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. Excited to chat.
Absolutely. So, Paul, I always like to start with somebody's backstory. I think there can be a lot learned. I always love to hear their backstory, what got them interested into what they're doing, and kind of what brought you into the world you're living in today. And so just a bit of a background, and then we'll dive into some of the, the expertise that you're on kind of the daily basis of what we're talking about doing.
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of times people ask me the question, how did you become an entrepreneur, a digital marketer, an internet marketer? Well, first of all, it was not like I dreamed about it as a kid, because when I was a kid, there was no internet. So, but I became an entrepreneur because I had bills to get paid. So I remember I was working at a sales room, and I was doing merchant processing sales. And at this time, it was kind of like side hustle, was building websites. And at this time, 98% of businesses didn't have websites. But I saw that, hey, this could be big. People were starting to, instead of put their business in the phone book, they were putting it on the internet. So there was this initial phase where people were interested. So I was doing websites on the side, but I'm working at this company as a salesperson, merchant processing. And I remember the boss would come in and he was always angry, always upset, and just made a really tense workplace, yelling at people and stuff. And finally, I felt like I wanted to be the spokesperson for the office. And I went up to this guy and I said, "Sir, I don't know if you realize this, but every time you come in here yelling and, shouting at everybody, it really makes everybody anxious." And that didn't go well. He just pointed me in the shoulder. He's like, "Paul, if you talk to me like that again, you're going to lose your job." And in that moment, I'm like, I got a decision to make. Right. And I decided, I was like, look, I'm not going to let him fire me. I'm going to quit. And I walked away, and I really doubled down on this building websites and stuff. Shortly after that, I remember a friend said, "Hey, Paul, I'm going off to college. Stay connected with me on this Facebook thing." and they gave me access. At this time, Facebook was only for college people.
Yeah.
So they gave me a college email. I got on Facebook and I was like, this is a waste of time. But I played around with it and got involved in it. And then when it came to the public, I was playing with it and doing it more like a hobby. And initially, they didn't have their own ad platform. They had like a third-party ad company that you could put ads on there. Well, I was building websites. I was helping businesses through different ad platforms get traffic. So I was playing around with this internet marketing thing, making a little bit of money on the side, $500, $1,000 a month. When Facebook launched their ad platform where it's just third party, I'm playing around with it, testing it, and it was super cheap traffic. After about a year, Facebook reached out to me and they said, hey, would you be a beta tester for our ad platform we're going to release? And so I became a beta tester for Facebook ad platform. And from there, initially people were trying to grow their pages, Facebook pages with following. I learned how to do that very quickly. And I started doing it for authors and speakers. Next thing you know, I have movie companies reaching out to me. I have A-list celebrities reaching out to me, entrepreneurs. And I guess you would say one thing led to another. Our agency grew from just a one-man show to now over 100 people. We've worked with A-list celebrities, people like Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, Bob Proctor, Les Brown. Really, the list could go on and on. We're blessed to work with a lot of amazing people.
Yeah, it's really an interesting story where, like, when I always try to, when I have these conversations, I love starting with the backstory, and it's always a kind of a one thing led to another. We're kind of solving our own problems, and we're kind of solving the things that we're trying to navigate in our own lives. And all of a sudden you're like, I've kind of figured this out. I got pretty good at this. And then other people are like, hey, you got to help me with this. Right. And it wasn't like you said early on, you're not thinking, hey, I'm going to be an internet marketer and that's the goal. And I'm going to try to make money. And at least in my experience of talking to very successful people that have operated at a high level, that seems to be a very common thing. And versus the person that's like, it was a means to an end. I just wanted to do this to make some money. And that's not, because those people are out there as well.
Yeah.
They're typically not the ones operating at the highest level.
There's a transition in that story. That it's like, okay, there's money, but then you start to see, okay, this could be a business. This could be something really big.
Right. And it's really fun. I appreciate you diving into there. And as you grow these brands, and I call them brands, whether it's a company, whether it's a personal brand, all of that stuff. Why don't we dive in there? Because you are a branding expert, and whether, I at least look at you as a branding expert. I think you very much understand that that's part of what you have to lean on. Right. And I'd love you to, start the conversation. Tell me your definition of brand and ask you about like a corporate brand versus a personal brand. Right. Like, and like, cause a lot of people, I think, feel like the personal brand's not as important. I need to lean in and look more professional, and I'm going to get the logos, and I want to do the corporate brand. And I tend to argue the opposite. I think it's actually much easier to do a better personal brand than a corporate brand. But I'd love to hear you talk about that.
I agree. So when it comes to brand, I think a lot of times when you use the word brand, people already associate it with a business aspect. But if you just quickly change that word from brand to reputation, then it makes people a little bit easier to understand what we're talking about. So building a business reputation or building a personal reputation, how people perceive you, what they see, what they know about you. And I agree with you. Building a personal brand is probably one of the greatest things that you can do as far as an investment purpose. People don't do transactions with businesses.
Yes.
People do transactions with people. So even large businesses, let's take, for example, Nike. They understand it that people do not do transactions simply with Nike, but they do it with people. So what they've done is they have built multiple personal brands that are connected to Nike. That's where you see sports influencers that are wearing Nike, because individuals, we look at other individuals, we see what they're doing, and the message is communicated better when it's coming from a person versus some corporate entity that has no feelings, no emotions, no connections. But when you take a person and connect it to the business. So every successful business, typically there is a personal brand that's associated. So Nike, they have sports influencers. They have those people that are connected to it. McDonald's, who's the face for that? Ronald McDonald, this silly clown, what he stands for. Obviously, they recognize that connecting to the children brings the families in, but there's a lot of wisdom in connecting a person. Even big companies like Tesla. When I say Tesla, who do you think of?
Elon,
right? Yes,
yeah.
Because that's a forward-facing personal brand. So people don't do transactions with businesses simply. They do it with people. So investing in a personal brand is one of the best investments that you can do. And when it comes to building a personal brand, it comes down to being able to tell your story. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's service isn't different. It's like, for example, real estate agents. Basically, your service is identical.
Yep.
You offer the same services. But what makes you distinct, what sets you apart, what draws people to you is your personal brand, what you stand for, your story, your principles, your values. All of these things help mold the personal brand.
Love it. And I love that you equated it, because that's exactly how I think of it. I heard a long time ago, your brand is your reputation, right? Yeah. And it's, what does that reputation say? And then you have a certain image that people can remember and associate that to, right? And I think that's where some of those, you and I were talking about, like I wear the cowboy hat, and when I walk through, somebody might not remember my name, but they remembered me as the guy in the vacation rental world that wears a cowboy hat. And then they also, though, when they come up to me, they also associate that image with a certain reputation, right? For like, my reputation is kind of a no nonsense. You're just going to get your hands dirty. We're going to roll up our sleeves. We're not looking for the easy button like that. Yeah. Maybe people like that. Maybe they don't, but that's the reputation we have associated with that image. And I think that that's important to understand, is the reputation starts with, like you said, it's got to tell the story. And, I love the way that you broke that down and mentioned that, because, for example, for our listeners, a lot of our listeners, we have vacation homes. We're selling vacation homes. We're selling an experience. We're not selling homes. But a lot of people are selling the same beachfront, the same amenities, the same area, right? And we've got to be able to tell a story with our properties. And then what we want to do, though, is when we're trying to market online, for example, we want to associate that experience and that story with us as a family. I always say, let them, because they don't want to do business with your logo, the Lakeside Treehouse. They don't know who the Lakeside Treehouse, but they know who Shawn and Teresa and Wyatt and Grace are. And so we use that to associate this amazing experience that our family has that we want to share with the world. And so I think that goes right into, it does a lot of the heavy lifting, in my opinion, on the marketing side, right? Where it helps you now say, okay, I've identified who this target audience is that is going to identify with this personal story that we're trying to put out there. And then we can start talking about how do we put it out and articulate it to the marketplace.
Yeah. So when it comes to building a personal brand, you almost have to really double down on these attributes that make you you. So for example, me, the bow tie, the glasses, this nerdy brand, it's something that I emphasize a lot.
Yes.
Like, at my events, my slides are done with superheroes and nerdy things and stuff. And sometimes here's the reality. Sometimes people don't like that about me. But that's who I am, so it's like there's things about who I am that make me unique, make me different. And the people that connect with it are the people that will really be this strong tribe. So you, the cowboy hat, I mean, you could come in all city slicker and, just Mr. Soft, polite. Hi guys, how are we doing today? And everything like that. Yeah. But that wouldn't be you. So you have to be true. You have to be authentic. You have to be who you are, and just really double down on that and say, this is who I am. And you attract the people that are like you, and you find yourself building this tribe of people that really connect to the authenticity of who you are.
Love it. And I love, like, it is 100% true. It's interesting. We just did an event on Friday where we had a bunch of people flying to, we call them our boardroom HQ events. And the event was setting up your property to deliver a unique experience. And a huge part of the day was talking about picking that target audience and leaning into them. And everybody's really, really afraid to do it. Especially, it's very common in our world. It's common in business in general. We always want to cast this really wide net, and we want to kind of be everything to everybody, right? And or we want to copy what somebody else is doing. And it doesn't feel right to us. We just kind of feel incongruent. It doesn't feel right, but we see it as an opportunity. And I always tell these investors, I'm like, listen, you should be part of your target audience. You should understand that group. You should understand what they want. We should go and lean into a very specific target audience, set up an experience that speaks directly to them. And then, great marketing attracts that right person, but it also repels the people who are not going to be interested in it. Right? That's what you want. You want somebody to say, no, that's okay. Like, I walk on stage with an axe in my hand, and I walk on stage, but with my furry cows, which they're Highland cows, and all this stuff that's about me. And there's people that love that, even the people that don't like cowboys and cows and everything else, but they appreciate that you're authentic. I remember early in my career, I thought I was a pretty hot internet guy, and I was like learning this internet marketing game. And I remember my wife had twins, and she we had twins, and I completely, outkicked my coverage with her. Like, she's way, higher skill than I am with as far as like, I never let her go. Right. Because I'm like, I'm the reacher. She's the settler in this relationship. Right. But I thought, okay, she's gorgeous. I'm gonna write this plan. She had no interest, but I'm gonna use her as my face of this new product, and I'm gonna have this new exercise product that goes and teaches moms that just had kids how to get back in shape and get back to their pre-baby bodies, right? And so I started writing this up, and I write this sales letter, and I write this website up, and everything else with all my fancy marketing knowledge that I thought I had. And it fell flat. I didn't sell one thing. And I think I did sell one or two. And my wife looked at it and she said, you better give them their money back, because I would never say that. I would never do that. Like, that is not what, that is not what a mom wants to hear. Right. And it's kind of goes to your point of just, if I was being me and talking to people, it would have resonated, but I was trying to be something else because I thought there was just an opportunity there. Right. And quickly realized that authenticity has to be there, and you should lean into it. Don't try to copy what I'm doing. I'm not going to try to copy what Paul's doing. We naturally are who we are, and people are attracted to that. You might look good in a bow tie, bro. Huh? You might look good in a bow tie. I might. I like the bow tie. I got to be honest. I like the bow tie. My son, it's funny. My son loves ties. And when he was little, he would always wear the bow ties, and everywhere we'd go, he'd get a different bow tie and he'd get different stuff. And it was so I'm a fan of the bow tie. He that's his kind of image. But
just recently, I was over at a client's office, and he has this big wall with his family pictures and stuff, and he has I believe 2 or 3 young boys, 5, 6, 7 years old, and they're wearing bow ties. And here I am in my suit, my bow tie. And I was like, all right, yeah, there's the bow tied gang. And he's like, yeah, that's what people wear until they grow up.
That's awesome.
I'm like, whoa.
That's right. That's awesome. You're like, hey, some people just don't grow out of that phase, and they lean into it. That's what we're talking about, right? And so, but don't you agree though that that's the start, right? If somebody's thinking, okay, if I'm really trying to figure out the start, that becomes the foundation of what your story is, what your message is, how you end up going to market, whether you're dealing with real estate investors, whether you're dealing with business owners, whether you're dealing with spa, a spa owner, it doesn't really matter. And that's why I like these conversations. Is it's very universal. Consumer behavior is very universal. And consumers are attracted to certain things, and we are attracted to stories. We're attracted to doing business with people we know, like, and trust. And that's why we want to associate that to our product that we're trying to sell.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I remember there was a phase in my online marketing where I compartmentalized my faith and my business. And it wasn't that I was ashamed, but I think mentally I had this, faith is sacred and business is secular mindset. And I just kind of wanted to compartmentalize those two. And I would find myself in business interactions and stuff like that maybe there was this disconnect, or maybe I was hesitant about sharing my faith, or just, this aspect of me, because there was maybe this part that was like, maybe people wouldn't want to work with me if they knew this, my faith, and I'm very active. I'm a minister in church and this, and maybe they think I'm going to be preaching to them or something like that. And then I realized, number one, if a person doesn't want to work with me because, my faith is a big component of my life, then I probably don't want to work with them either. And there just became like this fulfillment when I could bring the two together. Like, this is who I am. I don't have to look over my shoulder or apologize if I start talking about God, or when I'm speaking, I'm throwing some scripture out there and stuff. And again, there might be some people it doesn't connect with, but the people that it does connect with, there's this relationship that is built. So being true, being authentic, and just being who you are, there's freedom in that.
Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you, I'm curious on your thoughts on this. I have, because I've struggled with this personally. There's been times where we're like really, I've got this reputation of just really straightforward, just personal responsibility, self-reliance, like calling it how it is, all of those things, authentic, right? And there's certain times when those things become like cliche. And then I start to almost lean away from it, where I'm like, well, that is who I am, but everybody's trying to be that now. And so then I get a little bit less like, I don't want to be the person that feels like I'm leaning in. And I it's interesting you bring up faith stuff, because I feel like faith stuff is becoming a little more cliche now. Like, it was like, okay, it was really kind of scary to be that for a while. And those of us that leaned into it, and then it becomes like everybody's doing it. And so it's like, how much, like, I struggle sometimes where I want to pull away from it a little bit. And is that, what do you think about that? Because that's not who I am.
I think this. I think if there is something that you're trying to communicate or present in your business that isn't really who you are, that you're trying to, and I think maybe there was a hesitancy for me in that, because I didn't want to come across like I'm using my faith as a stick,
right?
This is, the little faith thing that gets them, but I've been a pastor. I've been a minister for 15 years in church. I've been preaching since I was 17 years old. So I think there was probably a bigger disconnect of me trying to just be the internet guy. I'm just the business guy. And people like, oh, you're a preacher too? I'm like, yeah, I sure am. And so it's if you're trying to take things and elevate it and push it out there for some ulterior motive besides this is who I am, then I think I would question that. But if you're the same thing in business that you are in person, then that's what becomes real.
Yeah, well, and then and that's where I struggle is like, we are who we are, right? And we're just going to be who we are. But then when other people realize, oh, that's kind of working, and they're just putting it out there to get business, and then like you don't want to be lumped into that group, even though that's who you are. That's where I struggle. Well,
here's the thing. Those people have a short lifespan,
right? Because they're found out quick. Yeah.
Yeah. They have a short lifespan, and it's just you cannot fake authenticity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't fake authenticity. So when a person tries to do that, it gets tiring.
Yeah.
For me, it was getting tiring not doing this. Yeah. It's like, I had to look over my shoulder, and if I start, using scripture in my presentations or something like, oh, well, this is who I am. It's like, I will tell people if they invite me to speak, I'm like, I will share my faith. Is it okay? If not, I'm not the person for this. So it's like, this is me. And so a part of a strong personal brand is there's a certain amount of polarization where, like you said, people are going to say no. If you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. And most importantly, you end up not pleasing yourself. You're unhappy with who you are putting out there. But when you're true and authentic in who you are, there's going to be people like, I don't like this guy. I have people that wouldn't work with me because I like comic books, because I post about superheroes and stuff like that. I can't take this guy serious, things like that. Okay, cool. I want to work with people that, they like Marvel movies. They like having fun. They've got this, people that don't want to work with me because of my faith. Well, that's fine. I work with people of all different faiths, and I have people of different religions that respect me because of my faith. So being true, authentic, who you are as a personal brand, it's going to be polarizing. It's going to be repelling to some people, but the people that it attracts, it's going to be strong.
And that's the point of marketing, right? That's the number one point. Attract the right people, repel the wrong people. And, and even though people aren't like, I don't get into comic books and all that stuff. But you and I'm like, hey, listen, we need to have a conversation. I want to work together because I appreciate the authenticity with somebody else. It doesn't mean that I have to love everything that they're about. But I appreciate that somebody has something they're passionate about and that they love. And it tells you a little bit about them. And so it's not even like, I always tell people, when you go after a very specific niche audience, you are who you are, and you're going to attract those people. They're going to read your ads and your marketing material, and they're going to think you tore a page right out of their diary and you're speaking right to them, right? But there's also that next group of people that are going to be like, hey man, this person really knows what they're doing. They're leaning into what they're doing. And I can appreciate that they're passionate about something. I can appreciate that they've got that something, right, that they're leaning into. And then there's going to be the other group that says, hey, I don't like that. I'm not going to be a part of that. But they're not going to be happy and you're not going to be happy. So that's what you want. And so as we think about this as marketers and as we run down this road, we're talking a lot about being able to articulate our brand, articulate our reputation online and associate it with the products, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a short-term rental operator and trying to get people to, be attracted to your properties. The paid marketing world is a pretty tough world, right? Because it's a lot different than when you started. You've seen it evolve from literally the beginning with Facebook. And, you spent over $1 billion of paid ads over the years. How important do you think understanding paid media to move the needle forward, to accelerate somebody's progress is in today's day and age?
So oftentimes there is this debate, organic or paid. Number one, I don't think it has to be one or the other. It can be both. Okay. What I like about paid media is when you know how to do it, and running ads is one component, because you can have excellent ads, but if you have bad funnels, it's not going to work. If you have excellent funnels and you have bad ads, it's not going to work. So you have to have both for it to be successful. But the one thing that I like about paid ads is it is immediately scalable. When something's working, I can click a few buttons and I can scale it. Organic, you don't necessarily have that control of it's measurable. It's just kind of like they trickle in when they come in. Oh, I'm getting organic leads. I'm getting organic sales. But when you have paid ads, I can say, I know my cost per acquisition is $100. I want, 10 leads. I'm going to spend $1,000. So you've got that predictability when it comes to paid ads. Now, obviously, we all know the cost of ads is always going up. There might be some waves here and there where things go down, but long term, it's like everything. It's going to go up. So you have to kind of stay ahead of that, You have to be creative. You have to learn different strategies to increase your cart value, to, make the most out of what you're spending. So it's an ever learning process.
Yeah, we always say, even with and this is applied to almost any business, I think you would agree, is you got to attract a customer, you got to be able to convert the customer, and then you got to be able to retain them, because retaining is really where the money's made, because the cost of ads continues to skyrocket. The cost of attracting and converting a customer goes up. So you got to be able to, you create those raving fans in your business that refer people, that continue to buy products from you, continue, in our case, to rebook our properties, because, like you said, and all three of them are critical for success. You can't have the best ad in the world if you don't know how to convert them, right? And you can't have the best funnel in the world if you don't know how to attract them. And then you have to retain them and have a good product on the back end, because if you just have, you can get really good. AI can write you some good ads. They can write you some good funnels. Absolutely. But if you don't do a good job of fulfilling those customers, your reputation gets trashed pretty quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So speaking of AI, in this world, how do you think AI is going to propel or hinder that internet marketing industry moving forward, and being able to, personally, like I see a lot of people, not only people that we compete with on the side of Odyssey in other businesses, but also vacation rental portfolios that do a really good job of attracting customers. They have really amazing ads. They've got these beautiful websites, and then they've got a horrible reputation with their reviews online, right? Their fulfillment's not very good. And I think that is, in my opinion, one of the drawbacks of the AI is it allows people to look really good on the front end, but you better be able to perform on the back end, right? It's that, the song of, you're the internet market, or the internet dating guy that is, 5'10" and 200 pounds, living in his mom's basement, but his online profile is 6'4", handsome, tan, and lives in a penthouse, right?
Absolutely.
And so I'm curious on your opinions on AI and how it's going to propel or hinder going forward for marketers, business owners, and really helping them accelerate or decelerate their progress.
So a lot of times people say this: AI is going to take this job, going to take that job. Yeah. Maybe it's going to take some jobs. It will. It's going to take some jobs. But I believe that a person that is doing good, and they're good at what they're doing, if they don't implement AI into it, they are going to get passed up by someone that is just as good, that is using it. It makes things easier. It makes things quicker. It helps you consolidate time in doing things. Mm-hmm. So everybody should adopt it into their business. But to your point, people will always want to be connected with people. Yeah. Regardless of how smart. And I think that there will be a day that you just say, hey, AI, make me an ad for my offer. Tell me how and then boom, click, an ad is created. Here's 10, and it automatically knows what the results are going to be. Hey, target this, and it'll do everything for you. And it just, it's going to be solely based upon relationship, that personal brand, the deliverabilities. So people will always want to be connected with people. That's why I think now more than ever, it is so important to build a strong personal brand, because people are always going to want that handshake. They're going to want that relationship. I'll give you a great example. So I have an automation set up on my phone that when I go to the gym, I pull into the gym parking lot, and based upon my geographic location, it automatically sends a text message to my wife. Hey, hon, I'm at the gym. I love you. Kiss emoji. It's great. It's just, she responds back, okay, thanks for letting me know. Love you too. Blah, blah, blah. One day, I'm taking my wife out to dinner. And as we're going to dinner, we drive through the parking lot of the gym to get to the restaurant. All of a sudden, I'm driving, both hands on the wheel. She's sitting beside me. She gets a text message. I'm at the gym now. I love you. Kiss emoji. What? What's going on here? And then it hit her. She realized my plan was blown. I'm done, because up until that point, it was all good.
Yeah.
But as soon as she realized there wasn't a real human connection that is with my own two thumbs texting it, it became meaningless. So regardless of how advanced AI gets, people will want that human connection.
I couldn't agree more. And then they appreciate it so much when whether they believe or if it truly is a human connection.
Yeah.
But then they're so disappointed if it's not, if it's automation and everything else, right? And so you have to you risk that losing that trust and that disappointment. We see that all the time in our communication. We really teach people how to do direct bookings and communicating with people, and we can automate almost everything. And I say, listen, there's a point where we remove the automation and it becomes personal. And that piece of the puzzle, if we automate everything, we get about a 1-to-1 ROAS on paid ads for property ads. When we keep that, when we literally type it out with our hands, make it more personal, remove the automation, we get an 8-to-1 ROAS on the complete different story on the conversion process.
It is. So we do DM marketing, whether it's getting people to an event or set up a call or something like that. And I can tell you, we have some scripts that we use and stuff, but when it's human connection, people start asking questions. I put a voice message. I make a video. It's done. It's over. The sale is made when there's a human connection. So there's opportunity in being human.
Love it. Love it. So Paul, as we wrap up and somebody's considering, is personal branding for me? Is it not? What's your biggest piece of advice for somebody considering even where to start with their personal brand? Maybe they don't have a big company. Maybe they're just, an owner of portfolios or vacation rentals, and they want to tie that personal reputation to their, so that their guests trust. Or is there anything that comes to mind as advice when somebody's really kind of considering where to start with personal branding?
Yeah. So number one thing that an individual has to do is learn to be a superhero. Learn to be a superhero. And what do I mean by that is learn to tell your story like a superhero. And I just watched Spider-Man 1, Tobey Maguire yesterday, and I was doing it for market research. and so when it comes to telling your story is what sells. Facts tell, stories sell. So learning to tell your story. So Spider-Man, for example, he was this nerdy, geeky kid, wasn't liked. He had problems. He has conflict, internal, he's troubles and all of this. That's a part of his story. And that's what makes him real and tangible. So being able to share your story in a way that connects with your audience, that's what's going to make a difference. So building your personal brand is learning to tell your story, who you are, the journey that you've taken, and where you want to take them. So taking people on that journey, you're going to connect with them. Again, like we said before, there's going to be people you don't connect with. Don't waste your time on that. Don't waste your time on that. Just connect with the people that you will connect with. And that connection is made in being authentic, being able to tell your story and communicate it. What makes you different is not necessarily the product or the service that you have, but the story and who you are that makes you and makes your product and service so unique in what it is.
I love it. And it's interesting you said that early on. I'm a really private guy. In fact, I'm not the guy, you won't see my houses, you won't see my cars, you won't see all my stuff online. And not that there's anything wrong with that when the people show it. I just don't show that very often. And so, I'm like, hey, listen, we feel like we're pretty good at what we do. We can help people do it, but I always feel like I'm showing off at this stage in the game, right? I've been doing this for 25 years. Yeah. So if you look at what I have now versus when I started, sometimes I feel like it sets unrealistic expectations. So I don't do it. And early on, somebody said, we got to tell your story. We got to tell your backstory. And I've got a story online that kind of takes people through my process and through the ups and downs and through that journey and just personal stuff about having infertility issues and things like that. And it's this online, and it's our most watched thing that we have on like way more than most of my trainings, all of our VSL stuff, all of our sales training stuff, how to succeed. It's who is Shawn Moore, and people listen to that, watch it. And even like we were just doing that live event last Friday, and 3 people are like, I fell in love with you when I saw you start crying because you're talking about when you're about to have the kids. And I'm like, that's what they remember instead of because they relate to it. Like you said earlier, people want to do business with other people they know, like, and trust. And when you can do that and you do tell the story and you just tell people always think I don't think my story is interesting. I don't think it's interesting at all, but other people relate to it and they think, hey, listen, I appreciate you sharing that. And I appreciate you opening up and saying that stuff. And I think we discount our own stories a lot and we want to clean them up and we want to make them cooler than they are. And that actually makes them worse, in my opinion, in a lot of cases. Let's just tell your story and people are going to love it.
Yeah. No, I've worked with people and they're like, oh, I don't have a rags to rich story. I don't have that. I'm like, well, you do have a story.
Right.
You have a story that will connect with people. You've been through things. You've experienced things. You've had ups and downs. You've had failures. You've had success. And that's what humanizes you. Writing in comic books, Stan Lee, he recognized this, that if it was just Spider-Man by himself, people would not be interested in him. There has to be a Peter Parker.
Yeah.
If it's just this hero without this normal person, people can't relate. They don't connect. They're not invested in the story. But when they see Peter Parker, the guy with the glasses, the reporter, the photographer, and just like bumbling and always trying to get the attention of the girl and stuff, they're like, okay, I can relate to him. And so now they are invested in Spider-Man because they see something in Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and they aspire to be the hero that Spider-Man is.
Yeah, love it. And it's every movie you watch, right? Every comic book, every movie, everything else. We've got to see the journey. We don't appreciate the triumph at the end without the, fighting the dragons along the way. And people don't trust that you're going to be able to help them because they know they're going to fight dragons around the corner, right? And they're like, I need to know that
they've done it. They've been there.
Yeah. They're like, I know there's dragons. If there was no dragons for you, you're not my guy to help me, right? And so I got to see.
I'm not like you.
Yeah,
you got something special. You're just Spider-Man. I need a Peter Parker.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And so I love that advice. Be able to tell your story. Be able to lean into that and be the hero of that story. Right. Become the superhero, and people are going to relate to it. So Paul, where can people find more of you? Where do there's a lot of our listeners, obviously, we work with a lot of investors building portfolios. Most of them are business owners. Sure. And so where can people find more of you if they're interested in really, diving into this even more?
Sure. I think the easiest way to connect with me is on Instagram. Okay. My Instagram handle is Paul, just Paul. Send me a message there. Let me know that you heard me on this podcast. I've got 3 books. I'll get you a copy of one of them. Would love to connect with you.
Love it. And by the way, that's awesome that you got Paul at Paul. You got you got like when we say you were like been in this game for a long time and like got in early and figured that stuff out. That's an awesome. When I looked at your Instagram handle, it's at Paul. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Not like Paul 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just Paul.
Just Paul. That's awesome. But listen, and you guys are listening. You know that we post links to everything in the show notes, and so we'll make sure we post the links of where you can find more of Paul and his company and dive more into this. This is applicable whether you own a business, whether you own, again, vacation rentals, whether you're trying to, and it's consumer behavior is consumer behavior. So the brand and the story is applicable across the board on what you're trying to do. And so I really, really appreciate this conversation, Paul. I know how valuable your time is, and I appreciate you spending it with us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Shawn.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys listening, and we know how valuable your time is as well. And we do appreciate you spending it with us. I always ask you 2 favors at the end of every episode. The first one is that we don't run ads on this show. We don't run sponsorships ever. And so the only way it grows is if you guys share it. If you know somebody else who would like to be a part of these conversations, share the show. If you have more than 30 seconds, like it or review it on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And the final, most important thing, I ask you at the end of every episode, pick that one thing you can do today to start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website? Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodacy.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.